After what felt like years of being confined to Japan, with consistent teasing for a Western release, Piofiore Episodio 1926 is finally here in the West. This fan disc to Piofiore 1925 is a visual novel highly praised for its intricate story featuring a triad of criminal organizations and some heart-throbbing moments.
パリス。そういえば少し間が空いたか。
In Piofiore Episodio 1926, our story returns to the port city of Berlone. In this town, the three mafia families, the Liao Shu, the Visconti, and the Falzone, declare a temporary truce to deal with a looming force that threatens to completely shift the balance of power after a robbery of a special relic. Unlike a typical fan disc, which generally tends to feature what-if scenario stories, this one doesn't do that. Instead, I would argue that this story is a full-blown sequel, not just a simple alternative story, but more on that in a bit. Story this time is divided into 3 types of chapters. The first is Chapter Bologna, which is then divided into 6 routes, each being continuous of the love interest's best endings from 1925. These stories have a different approach to the information you know because it manages to establish a sense of continuity and further enhances the world building from the previous titles. The chapters also add a brand new aria system, letting you rewatch certain cutscenes from 1925, but from the love interest's point of view. This, in addition to the meanwhile story system, also makes its return from 1925, which raises the stakes during a particular tense scenes. So you're probably wondering about the translation. Piofiore 1925 had its fair share of grammatical and punctuation mistakes, I won't deny that, but after playing through most of the routes in Episodio 1926, I noticed some typos, but they weren't so prevalent compared to its predecessor. And while I did run into some font issues during some route-specific endings, the localization team definitely learned from their mistakes. So if you were cautious because of that, then I'm the person to tell you that it's not as bad as you might have thought. In the interest of not spoiling the route's contents, I'll keep my thoughts very brief. Some of the routes had me jaw-droppingly shocked. In North America, the game is rated mature, and yeah, given how crazy the routes can get, I can see why. Unfortunately, even though the aria system and the highlighted dictionary entries will give you some refreshers, I can't recommend playing 1926 before playing its predecessor, even if you aren't bothered by spoilers from 1925, such as a certain character being alive or not. They are all thrown around with the assumption that you are familiar with these events, making your experience that much more meaningful if you've played it. But let's not dawdle any further and talk about the main course known as the alternative chapter. Essentially, it presents itself as an advent calendar, divided into 7 different months just after the final ending. Once you've completed each of the nodes of the calendar, you'll then start the true chapter. Further, one additional scenario opens up for a familiar character you may remember from 1925 once you've completed it, and I won't spoil any details for obvious reasons. Piofiore Episodio 1926 is much more than just a simple fan disc, packing a profound story that can be treated as a full-blown sequel. It successfully establishes a sense of continuity from the ending of its predecessor. Still, this means it's hard or even impossible to enjoy without playing 1925. Regardless, I hold it in high regard and would recommend it if you're in the mood for a story that manages to be heavy, but also lovely in equal proportion. Noisy Pixel is giving Piofiore Episodio 1926 a 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Please read the full review at noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by corporate gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.